Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live powered by Riverwind Casino. Parker Thune, Spencer Forsythe on the board. My name's Brandon Drum. Recruiting, recruiting, recruiting. We're going to talk recruiting. We're going to talk some off-season buzz, and we're going to talk the move to On3. We're going to discuss all that. We're going to answer your questions on this live. It's going to be a fun one. Excited for it. And I believe this is the first live since the Rivals 5-Star Challenge as well. So we'll discuss some of that, answer some of your questions about that. But we're going to be all over the place, SEC Media Day in a few weeks as well. So lots to discuss in this air quote off season. But before we do all that, Parker, let's thank our sponsors.
Let's do it. Riverwind Casino is our presenting sponsor, folks, and Riverwind Casino, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. If not, conveniently located right off I-35 and Highway 9 in Norman, OKC's premier gaming destination for going on 20 years now. Almost 3,000 electronic games, table games, bars, and dining options, plus, of course, the best live music in the metro. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. The pod also brought to you in part, or the stream, I should say, brought to you in part by our friends at Janiking, the greatest team to ever clean, and a proud partner of OU Athletics, delivering spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. So head to janiking.com, that's JANIKING.com, to figure out which of those solutions is best for you or your business.
All right, Parker. Look, I think we're bearing the lead if we don't talk On3 move, right?
Yeah, let's do it. A lot of people have questions about that, which, by the way, we're going to try to get to as many questions as possible in the chat throughout the stream. If you have a question that you absolutely must have answered, send it to us in super chat form. So you can attach any contribution whatsoever. But every single super chat, we guarantee we will read. Obviously, because of the quantity of responses that we're going to get in the YouTube chat throughout the show, can't make that guarantee for non-super chats, but we hit every single super chat question and or comment throughout the show before we wrap it up. So with that noted, let's proceed.
For sure. Yeah, ask away whatever you guys have as far as like On3 goes. But look, the move, Parker, kind of take ups, which we expected.
It has,
right? Like
migration. Well, listen, migrating all the data from a website that has been on the same forum, I suppose, for 25 years, that takes some doing. So the On3 tech and the On3 support folks are working feverishly this week to get everything done. But it's no small undertaking. And so it's kind of a bizarre situation right now because the OUinsider.com, the site itself, has moved over to On3. But the message board, the Lindsay Street Insider board, is still there on the shell of the old Rivals platform. And so by the end of the week, we're told the message board is going to migrate over to On3's new domain, I suppose. And at that point, it'll be business as usual, everything on the new and improved On3 Rivals platform. But in the meantime, yeah, there's some folks caught in the twilight zone, people that have had accessibility issues. We want to help as many of you out as possible if you are experiencing those. So let us know. My DMs are open on Twitter. You can DM the OU Insider account if you're having issues, and we'll make sure that we do everything we can to get them resolved. But if you are having issues, it probably won't take longer than a few days to get everything resolved, because by that time, all of the data will be migrated over, including all of your user information. So a lot of people, for instance, have had issues logging in to OUinsider.com on the new On3 side of things. And if you're having issues logging in, well, if you can conceptualize it, your user data, your login credentials have been on the old Rivals platform. And so until those login credentials get migrated over to the new On3 platform, the On3 website is not going to recognize your login credentials. And so that's why we got to wait for all of the data to migrate over before everybody is going to be clear of all of the issues in terms of accessibility. So if you have had any particular struggles, again, we're here to help you out, but definitely just give it some time. Give it a few hours, a couple days in some cases. There are folks who have had issues for multiple days, and we wish that wasn't the case, but it is what it is, right? So
Mm-hmm.
just give it some time, and everything's going to work itself out. Again, we're told by the end of the week.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and just you get these random members that'll just like when we tweet something, they'll comment right like, "Hey, I can't get on the new on three side or whatever." And so I'll if you do that, if I tweet something or if I see you in my mentions, like Parker said, I already reached out and I've tried to help several of you guys. Um, can't really do much right now, but if you still can't see it, what would you think, Parker? What, by Saturday or Sunday?
I
That's
hope so,
that's
man.
when, yeah, you would think like if you can't see it by Saturday or Sunday, I would assume that's when I would say DEFCON 1, right? And hit us up. Be annoying. I don't care because one thing we want to do is make sure you all are taken care of. We've always been that way. We will always be that way. And look, uh, the board size when we were at Rivals was it was pretty big. So like we would like to keep that obviously, and we want the migration for you all to be as seamless as possible. And I know it's not gonna be because it's not for us. Therefore, the trickle down effect for the members, unfortunately. But look, I will say this: like as far as the tech guys go and the openness and how hard working On Three has been with this, they've been exceptional. They respond. They talk to us through DMs. Now they still say don't DM us anymore, but we still do because we're
Their
trying to.
DMs are very full right about now.
They are, and I look. I apologize when I'm like, I know you told us not to, but look, trying to get this taken care of, and they still respond, and they're so cordial and nice and hardworking. So please just be patient because they're doing everything that this thing happens so expediently that they just couldn't, or expeditiously, however you want to say it, that they just really, there's not
They're
even
drinking
really,
from a fire
you couldn't
hose.
prepare for it. You really couldn't prepare for it, but they tried. They really tried. Um, on a lighter note, I have to say, seeing Steve Wiltfong post on our site tonight
Hello,
was
old friend.
glorious. It was awesome. I missed it so much from the 24/7 days. And I told him that Rivals. I was like, buddy, it's good to have you back. So like, God, man, the goat's back. So yeah, if you join us, you get the Steve Wiltfongs of the world. Obviously, the Chad Simmons of the world is now going to be posting on OU Insider. Still going to have the Sam Spiegelmans, the John Garcias, the Greg Smiths of the world. So the national team is formidable to say the least. Recruiting information will be uh, pretty abundant. It already was, but it was mostly Parker and I posting. We've been open about that, the frustrations that we had there. Um,
The national team's insane
it's insane. It's
with
awesome.
this new arrangement.
Yep,
Absolutely stacked.
it's stacked. It's the best in the business. Um, having said all that, let's start with the new pick because we've talked about it. We've thought Tyler Ruxer was going to be a Sooner for quite some time. I've talked to him quite a bit. Y'all asked a question on the radio today about the most interesting guy that I've covered. He's top 10 for sure as far as interviews go. He's one that if he does end up committing to Oklahoma, I'm going to get on a video for you all to see and meet because he's a special interview. His maturity is far beyond his years. And look, I believe what's he ranked on three rivals?
Way
What
high.
like really high, like top 150, right?
Verging
200
on it. I
at
don't think
least.
he's quite in the top 150. He's in the top 200 though.
Yeah, like 160 something, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, he's ranked really high. This for all the Joe John haters, this is not going to be a good class for you all.
Yeah, it's going to be
Ryder
pretty.
Mix and Ruxer. Woo!
There's going to be an argument, and this is fascinating. Fascinating to even consider that this is the reality. There's going to be an argument that Joe John Finley has the best haul of any position coach on the OU staff at the end of the cycle.
That's true.
There's going to be a very legitimate argument for that because Ryder Mix and Tyler Ruxer are dudes.
They're so good. Hey, before we move on, Mongo with the super chat. Thank you, Mongo, as always. Dari Noka, guest appearance win, and shout out to Steve Mateer. This dude knows John Mateer's dad's name already. Mongo would be the one to know it for sure. Well done, sir. Um, yeah, but back to the Ruxer and the Joe John Finley talk. That's a Parker. That's interesting because he's taken so much grief, right? It felt like when he got Devon Mitchell that things were gonna start moving in a positive direction for him,
And then
recruiting
we saw
wise.
how that went.
Yeah, it didn't go great. Um, so if anybody's due, it's him. But to get Ryder Mix, who that dude is insanely good, and Tyler Ruxer, I know people are gonna look at the Tyler Ruxer get, and yeah, they'll see the on three ranking, but they're gonna go, well, he played against 2A in Indiana football. Fair, fair. That's fair. That's fair. But that dude plays everywhere for that team. And that's what, we look at that, Parker. You and I do, especially when we're looking at these small town guys. Like, if they're dominating from, like, let's just say the quarterback position or the running back position or whatever, and they're dominating from, let's just say, linebacker, and those are the two positions that they play. This dude plays wide receiver, tight end, quarterback. What does he play on defense? Corner, safety, like everywhere for them. He
He's
does everything.
he's a superior athlete, undeniably.
The last guy I saw be able to do that, small high school, I played against him. And I know there have been others, but he reminds me of a bigger Wes Welker in that aspect. I saw Wes Welker, I kid you not, in one game. This is embarrassing. Luckily, I was just a sophomore, a freshman. I was a freshman when he did this because my sophomore and junior years, we beat them. But, and broke their 27 game win streak, by the way. Um, he kicked a 55-yard field goal. This is all in one game, Parker, Wes Welker. 55-yard field goal, 80-yard punt return, 80-yard run, 50-yard reception for a touchdown, kickoff return. Okay. And he intercepted and had a sack. Do I need to repeat that?
No, no. I mean, I
That's
think we get the
insane.
gist.
But I'm making that comparison because rare people can do the things that Tyler Ruxer does for his team and what Welker did for them. And I'm not like Welker's a Hall of Famer, right? Like, so like that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there were a lot of people that questioned whether Welker could do it, and Mike Leach was the only one. As a matter of fact, Bob Stoops once told Welker after one of the games, I should have offered you and taken you. Like, told him that to his face. And so, like, you don't want to overlook these small town guys just because they're dominating and doing those things. When they're playing that many positions, they have a chance to be pretty special. Like, that shows his athleticism. It's off the charts. He's that good. But there's been bad news, right? Like, I think there's been a lot of bad news as well.
It's been a lot that's happened over the last week or so.
Yeah.
A lot of decisions. I mean, that's the time of year that it is. And I think that the way everything has unfolded as far as NIL and rev sharing and just the timeline of events has dictated that there are going to be a lot of relatively early commitments in this 2026 cycle. And here's the way you got to think about it. we're only, as we sit here on July 2nd, we're really only halfway through the cycle. We have
Mhm.
another, well, I guess a little over halfway. We have 5 months until signing day. What I think is going to happen, and I would
Oh
point
yeah, he said he's on
to,
the phone today. Go for it. Yep.
yeah, I would point to what Pete Nakos, our fantastic national reporter at On3, tweeted out earlier today. He said there's more fake cash being thrown around right now than there's
Hmm.
ever been. And so I think, yeah, you're seeing a lot of early commitments. You're seeing a lot of guys commit earlier on the calendar than you're used to seeing. Because, like, you think even back to 2023, when Oklahoma put together a really, really strong class that was, depending on which service you follow, somewhere between 4 and 7 nationally. A lot of those guys committed in the month of July. So June decisions, I mean, the timelines or timetables for those decisions has even gotten pushed up a little bit further. But what I think is going to happen, Brandon, is I think there's going to be a pretty significant contingent of guys that committed in no small part due to financial promises from the institutions that they chose. That as we get closer and closer to signing day, they're going to realize, oh, that money's not actually there, and they're going to take a step back and reevaluate, probably decommit and explore other options. And so I know a very popular criticism in recent days of Jim Nagy and the Oklahoma front office and staff has been, well, they're not willing to pay up for big time talent. It's not time to pay up yet. And I think that's part of the rationale with all of this is there are a lot of programs out there, and I'm sure there are some, you can look at the recruiting rankings and identify some very likely culprits in this regard. There are a lot of teams out there that are throwing financial offers out to players that are not, they don't have any intention of or ability to honor. And so for Oklahoma, if you're trying to be prudent about how you distribute your payroll across your recruiting class, well, let's just say, and hypothetical numbers here, but let's just say, for the sake of the argument, you have a kid that's high on your board, but also high on the boards of several other P4 institutions. And another P4 institution is promising the kid $600,000 here in early July. And you know, based on the grade that you have on the kid and the evaluation that you've done, that there's really no way anybody is going to be realistically paying that kid more than about $350,000. So what are you probably going to do? Especially, and here's what everybody tends to forget about Jim Nagy as well, is they think of Jim Nagy, the evaluator. They disregard Jim Nagy, the networker, I suppose, because Jim Nagy has relationships with as many people in, like, he has one of the largest professional networks in the entire business. And so if he knows beyond reasonable doubt that the $600,000 offer from this other school is not actually indicative of how much that particular student athlete is going to be compensated, then what is he going to do? What's Oklahoma going to do? Let's say, hey, sure, you know what? You do your thing right now. Go commit to XYZ school.
Hmm. Yeah. I
And then you count on the fact, or what you count on is that come October or November, once the kid has kind of learned the lesson they're in, that he is getting back on the horn with you and engaging seriously about a financial offer and an offer of opportunity that is real.
so how do I want to word this? I'm trying to be very careful here. I'll make the analogy. So last year, I think you got to look at. I mean, this is exactly what you're saying was Kendall Daniels to a T, by the way. There were a lot of people throwing around some insane money towards him to start. And when it got time to sit at the table and negotiate with him, essentially, it wasn't the numbers that they were saying weren't the numbers that were being put in front of them. And how Oklahoma ended up with him in a roundabout way. This isn't exactly how it played out, but somewhat how it played out because you remember this. Remember they were in on him early, and then Penn
Mm-hmm.
State and a couple of others started pushing for him. And you started hearing Oklahoma kind of fade out because the NIL was kind of outlandish there for a bit in the talks. And then when they sat down and talked to him, and he kept just, we kept wondering, like, why wasn't he already signed? Well, it's because it was fake money. It was fake money to start. And it's not to say that those programs were fake money. The people that were representing them were saying it. And so there's two different things. Like Coach Franklin isn't going to throw around fake money like that. That's not how they're going to, that dude has too
Mm-hmm.
much integrity for that. Like, um, a lot of those coaches have more integrity than to do that. They understand it because they live, like you said, in a network world where they don't want to burn bridges long term. So the unfortunate side effect of that is when you have a collective or somebody representing that collective talking and they're speaking out of turn to try to get somebody to show up and at least take a visit, um, things can get out of whack and expectations get risen too high and almost to a point that they're they're unattainable expectations. And then he kept hanging out there, and all of a sudden, I remember I got text and was like, "Hey, do you think Oklahoma would listen?" And I was like, "I don't know. You need to find out." And this was from somebody around the Beggs area. And so they reached back out to Oklahoma, and the rest is history. Kendall Daniels is a Sooner. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's because Oklahoma was true with him the whole time. Like, this is what we're going to give you. It's a lot of money. Yeah, but these other people are trying to give more. Like, people need to also understand, like, it's worked in Oklahoma's favor in several instances where they may have been the lower end to start, but they were the consistent end. They weren't BSing to get somebody. They were straight up with the kid. And Oklahoma's roster is filled with guys that they were honest to. And I know people are going to say in the chat, stop making excuses for how recruiting's going, all that type of stuff. Look, Pete Nakos, as Parker said it. Fake money is being thrown out there. Oklahoma isn't playing that game. What you're valued at, they're up and they're honest with you. And a couple of the instances that Parker's talking about that he gave the examples of, there's some people representing those said kids that, yeah, the expectation, they probably made promises to those kids and they're trying to fulfill them. Like, I can get you this much. And yeah, maybe where those kids committed, maybe ends up being true. But I'm going to bet at least half of them aren't, Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that? Probably half.
Yes, I would, and that's mostly because you got a lot of posers playing the NIL game. You got a lot of freeloaders playing the NIL game. You have some really wise and discreet people that
Yep.
are involved in the operation as well. Like not all these agents or people that call themselves agents are unqualified. Some of them have the right background and have the right qualifications to be handling these conversations. Others are just an uncle, you know,
Mhm.
somebody who's mostly just in it to get their cut of the check more so than in it for the kid's best interest.
Yeah, Chef. I was reading the chat. Chef said something. I was going to make that point as well, and it's a really good point, Chef. A lot of this will also be contingent on how Oklahoma. And like, I think a lot of these players are they're waiting to see how Oklahoma does this year. Like, because the expectations are rising for Oklahoma. Like, there's a lot of people that are jumping on that bandwagon from a national standpoint, saying like they're going to be really good. They're going to surprise a lot of people that don't think they're going to be good. And I think when you add that to the NIL, aspect of things, if you're winning, you don't have to pay as much because the players know or feel like they're going to get
Yeah.
developed.
Well, and can I be
There's proof
honest
in the
here?
pudding.
I know like June, July, everybody is laser focused on what's going on in the world of recruiting because that's the only thing going on, right? There's no football being played. And so that's what you focus on because that's what is relevant. That is
Yeah.
what is actively ongoing. However, what happens on the football field this fall is going to go a long way towards reshaping whatever perceptions may exist right now of Oklahoma's recruiting class. Oklahoma has, according to On3 right now, the number 19 class in the country. So they're sitting there in the top 20, right? They are in the top 20 right now.
Mm-hmm.
If they win this fall, make no mistake, they will be able to position themselves effectively to land at least a couple of high-end flip targets. There will be guys that circle back around to Oklahoma. Similarly, if OU doesn't win this fall, even the guys that have been locked in with Oklahoma, and in some cases locked in for quite some time, you're going to have to hang on for dear life with every single one of those dudes.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what it all comes back to is you got to win football games in 2025.
Yeah. And the expectation is Oklahoma will win. Virgil Walker, our
Hey,
guy,
Virgil. He said,
appreciate you as always.
yeah, he just said, I'm just here to support you, man. Keep up the great work, fam. I'm here for it. Virgil, appreciate you. Best of luck on your next venture. That's a cross country move you got coming up. So,
Hmm.
uh,
Good luck on the
eager
move,
eager
brother.
for the next step for you. Always great to have you in the chat, have you interactive, and appreciate all the work you do as well. Virgil's moving from Atlanta to Arizona, if you weren't
Ooh,
aware, Brandon. So,
yeah, very nice. Going down again. Look, the rain, the humidity, no more, my friend, except for monsoon season in Arizona. Um, so, but outside of that, man, sunshine and warm weather, excruciating warm weather at times, but warm nonetheless. Also, depending on where you move. If you move to Flagstaff, now that's not very warm. Well, it is, but it also gets really cold. You can snowboard there. I've done it twice. Um, so let's talk about decisions being made over the next, what, 10 days, 12 days or so.
yeah.
Lots of decisions down the pipe. Tomorrow, it's going to start with just letting y'all know it's probably not going to be good news unless something is drastically changed.
Well,
Braden
let me ask you
Presley.
this, Brandon. Like, if Oklahoma really want, this is a great example right here. In the fall,
Yes.
if Oklahoma is winning and they really want to flip Braden Presley, you think they're going to be able to flip Braden Presley?
I think they could right now if they wanted to. It's where he wants to be. Yeah. I'm not going to dive into the details of why this took place, but I think July 12th might answer some questions of why Braden Presley isn't a Sooner as of, or that we don't expect him to be a Sooner, I guess would be the better way to put it at this point
And what's
tomorrow.
happening on July 12th, Brandon?
Jacob Everhart's going to announce his decision between Nebraska, Illinois, Missouri, Alabama, and Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma right now. I like their chances. And I'll put it like this. If Presley ends up committing to Oklahoma tomorrow, then maybe something turned in the Everhart situation. Both have huge upsides.
Yeah.
And I think that's this kind of rolls into, and let's talk about the Everhart situation because it kind of coincides a little bit with and the Braxton Lindsey commitment on July
Yeah.
7th, which we also don't think Oklahoma's going to end
Well,
up with that one. Well, can I explain something real quick? There's a lot of people like, why only two linebackers? And look, I understand that question because I'm asking the same thing. Why only two? And I'll tell you what I was told by two separate sources. And they explained it to me like this. OU could potentially have nine linebackers in the 26 roster, on the 26 roster. They don't play linebackers like they used to. Like, you're not looking at how they use linebackers in, let's just say, even 6, 7, even 3, 4 years ago. Oklahoma's getting these big safeties, the Boganowskis of the world, the RSJs, right? The potentially potentially Jacob Eberhardt, right? Who else is a big safety that they have on the roster? Powers, Reggie Powers, right? Like those are big. Hey, even Peyton Bowen's going to be around 205, 206, 210, something like that. Like that's where he wants to be come this season. Those are big dudes. And when Oklahoma is out there, I want everybody to pay attention to how many DBs and safeties they have on the field at all times. There's usually three corners and three safeties on the field at all times. So that would essentially leave you two linebackers. How many linebackers do they look like they're going to take this year? Two. So it kind of makes sense what they're doing. Load up in the defensive backfield as much as you can, and they have over the last few cycles. Sure, they're a little light in the britches this cycle, but that's because they've loaded up so much over the previous, right? So I kind of understand it. But I still question it. I think at the end of the day, getting a third linebacker wouldn't hurt. And I
Yeah.
think if the NIL would have been there, Oklahoma would do it. But when you already have your top two guys committed, what do you need to go splurge on a third? Why compete with the NIL game when you feel like you're good to go? Hey, that may bite OU in the butt. I also think that they may be going portal too to finish out the class, get some experience
Well, and
because they're
that's
going to be
just,
pretty young.
I mean, you don't want it to become a crutch for your program
Right,
necessarily. But
for sure.
especially when you're at a place like Oklahoma, you can very, very viably fall back on the portal at any positions where you might come up a little light on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But yeah, I I also think Braxton Lindsey is so athletic that he could play a very athletic, like he can play out in space at the Sam position if need be. You know what I mean? Like kind of like Samuel Masigo or Kendall Daniels, right? Like I think he fits in that mold. But I also think Jandro does as well. So and I think Ja'Cory Smith reminds me so much of Kip Lewis. It's not even funny. Like frame.
There is a lot of Kip Lewis in his game.
There's so much Kip Lewis and Ja'Cory. It's crazy. It's crazy. So regardless of that, I still think the linebacker core because I think Jandro's going to end up being a 4-star. I think I'll die on that hill. I hope I'm right at the end of the cycle. Um, but if you get Eberhardt, I think Eberhardt's what 205 already. He's a big dude.
A big boy.
And if you go watch his film, his brother pointed this out to me, and I never really thought about it. I watched him, but it didn't really wrap. I didn't. My head didn't get wrapped around like it should have. Like the majority of his film is offense.
Mm-hmm.
And when I thought back at it, I was like, yeah, he was a wide receiver almost the whole time.
You know who that reminds me of? Robert Spears Jennings.
Also reminds me of Samuel Maxigo. He had a lot of wide receiver film. You watched him in person more than anybody. That dude was phenomenal at wide receiver. Yeah, and by the way, I do like how I like the model Oklahoma's going to. It's more of a developmental model and I think when you see I don't think it's lip service when Nagy tweets out, "This is what we're looking for," and he keeps requoting or retweet quoting Oklahoma City Thunder stuff, saying like, "This is what we're doing," and he's doing it with Sam Presti and all that. I I would be interested to see and find out if he and Sam Presti have had some discussions over how to build. And yeah, it's two different sports, and but similar market, right? Like both in Oklahoma, Oklahoma City Metro. Um, you were trying to play the budgetary game, right? The way Oklahoma City is. It's hard to say that whenever you're paying the highest salary ever given to a player in NBA history in SGA, but they're still playing the budgetary game with all the draft picks and all that type of stuff. I'd be interested to see if he went and picked Presti's, brain on team building from that aspect. You would think he probably did, considering Presti's around the program enough. Um, what's another? Who else is deciding here soon, Parker? I think we've talked about four guys.
Jordan
With the
Clay.
fifth, Jordan Clay. That's the other one.
Jordan Clay.
That's right.
July 11th.
Thoughts?
I'm interested to see, like, I don't think Jordan Clay's own mind is made up yet. He released the top three today: Baylor, OU, Colorado. I don't think it's Colorado. OU's got some momentum there, is what it feels like to me. Now, are they? And from the sounds of things, and I'm hesitant, even though sources close to that process to me have expressed a great deal of confidence over the last couple of days. And I wrote about the situation yesterday on OUinsider.com. I don't know that I would pick Oklahoma right now over Baylor, but as we've learned many a time over the last month, a lot can change in the span of a week and a half. So, can Oklahoma keep the surge going with Clay? Thing is, at this point, you're not getting Zach Turner, right? It's Jordan Clay and it's Davian Gross. And those are the last two on the board for Oklahoma at wide receiver before you got to go further down and start digging for new targets at wide receiver.
Is SMU and Miami throwing out that much money for Zachary Turner? Like, is it just stupid money at this point?
Well, I think it's easy to figure what happened in that recruitment when it's OU Miami, OU Miami, OU Miami, and then boom, it's SMU. Not a whole lot of detective work required there, right?
Fair. So are you sold 100% that Zachary Turner's off the board for Oklahoma at this point?
I think it is a close to 0% chance that he winds up in OU's class.
Interesting. I know not just 3 days ago, obviously that was before the SMU buzz started really ramping up. Source around Oklahoma was like, well, I'm trying so hard to get Zachary Turner. Like lots of back and forth there. Lots of back and forth with him and these people. Yeah. But if you get Jordan Clay, let's say you got Daniel Odom, Jordan Clay, and Davion Gross.
Pretty solid class.
That's
pretty dang solid. I
yeah,
mean, you're talking about
a little more than
150
solid
players. 3 top 150 players. You'll take that.
You will. It's not the four. It's not four like you would like, but I think you can. I think if you go out and prove early in September, and then maybe you try to backdoor a player or two at wide receiver heading into December, I think you could potentially pull it off, right? Like maybe a flip or two. But that would be like, and the funny thing is like, just for example of how crazy recruiting is right now. Everybody thought Daniel Odom was going to flip at some point. It's never happened. As a matter of fact, he seems more solid than ever at this point. Right? Like, oddly, to be fair, sources told Parker and I for months that he was not going to go anywhere. We just didn't believe him. We were cynics just like you fans. So there's that. So we're cynical too. Jordan Clay was not on our top choice list of how this would end up at all. He seemed probably the least likely for a while to end up a Sooner, right? Of all the wide receiver targets. Maybe Dandridge, outside of Dandridge. Of all the wide receiver targets, it was probably Jordan Clay, right? For the longest time. Would you agree with that? Yeah.
I would agree.
So two of the three, like Davion Gross, we kind of always felt Oklahoma was going to. Anytime you see Oklahoma go after a Frisco Lone Star guy, I will bet on Oklahoma landing that kid. Just how it goes. Now, having said that, I will say that there were people around Norman who thought that wasn't going to happen because the kid was unresponsive, wasn't talking. There was like he's just not on his phone like a lot of kids are, right? Like he's not real communicative with everybody. And so there were people around Norman that were questioning where OU stood with Davion Gross, and now they got to see a different side of him. He took the OV, and bam. So there's that. It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, Chad Smith, thanks for the $2. Odd question.
Oh my gosh.
Thoughts on the Diddy verdict? I'm gonna say I don't even know what the verdict was, so I'll let you expound on that, Parker, because I'm clueless. What happened?
The short answer is he was cleared on some charges, convicted on others. I have no thoughts whatsoever on the Diddy verdict.
What was he
I have not.
convicted of? What was he cleared of, and what is he? Hold on,
He
time
was
out.
cleared of racketeering. He was convicted of
The baby oil.
something with regard to prostitution.
So baby oil.
Sure. He's
His
facing.
mass holdings of Johnson and Johnson, he's guilty of. Got it.
Ryan in Jacksonville. We missed a $5 super chat from him. Six
Okay.
and seven with a loss to Navy and staff on the hot seat. Props to staff to even be in the running to maybe land a top 10 to 15 class. Easy to negative recruit us. And boy, it is right now. It is.
Super easy. Yep.
Because, I mean, look, if you want to negative recruit Oklahoma on the offensive side of the ball, you just show a recruit Oklahoma's offensive tape in 2024. And how can you counter that if you're Oklahoma? Well,
You can't.
you have to show Ben Arbuckle's offensive tape from Washington State. And you have to convince a kid that what Arbuckle was able to do at Washington State, he'll be able to do at OU. Some guys will believe that, some guys won't.
Yeah.
It's really easy to negative recruit Bill Bedenbaugh on the offensive line because all you got to do is show the tape from last year and conveniently omit the fact that everybody was injured. Say, what do your eyes tell you about this offensive line? It's really easy to negative recruit Joe John Finley, given that Oklahoma has not had strong play at the tight end position the last two seasons. It's easy to negative recruit Emmett Jones, not because he's not a good coach, but again, no receiver did anything statistically last year at Oklahoma. So, especially on the offensive side of the ball, yes, it's tough for Oklahoma right now to combat some of the negative recruiting pitches, which again is why I say ultimately Oklahoma's fate in the 2026 cycle, the outcome of Oklahoma's recruiting class is going to be so heavily dictated by what they do on the football field this fall.
Mhm.
Because that is your opportunity to either prove the haters wrong or prove them right.
Yeah. That's fair. 100%. I look. Um. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said that like they were very open about the negative recruiting that Oklahoma's been, particularly Ben Arbuckle, has been taking, and they said that regardless of how fair or unfair it is, and taking out the fact that quarterbacks are different, a lot of the offensive line is going to be different, and the fact that there's different wide receiver unit, and obviously different person calling the plays. Coaches have been brutal towards Oklahoma and Ben Arbuckle as far as negative recruiting, and he's taking it on the chin, left and right, with several recruitments. But he's a youthful guy, and I was told that he's taken it in stride and almost asked for it, said, like, bring it on. This is how you want to play the game. Bring it on. He's got a lot of brashness in him. He's got a lot of confidence in him. And you can already see that. I truly believe, like, if Oklahoma goes out and beats Michigan, I think a lot of things change as far as the perception of Oklahoma moving forward in 2025. That win alone will hold merit, even with a bad loss or two down the line.
Well, and I've
Potential
pointed
bad loss
this
or two.
out. I think if you ignore 6 and 7, which obviously you're not ignoring 6 and 7 for so many reasons, but if you isolate the outlook for Oklahoma in 2025, if you just look at the 2025 roster on paper and you're not thinking about 6 and 7 in the rearview mirror, let's envision a world where Oklahoma won 10 games last year by some dark magic. If they won 10 games last year, you're probably looking at that roster right now and saying, well, the ingredients are there for 10 more wins. But it's hard to get away from the stench of 6 and 7. And so I think the reason why so many folks nationally are high on Oklahoma is because they're beginning to isolate from what happened a season ago, and they're beginning to dissociate from the perception of Oklahoma that was cultivated throughout last fall. If you do that, again, I think when you look at OU's roster, you come to realize they're a dangerous team. They're
Hmm.
genuinely a dangerous team. They have got to stay healthy, and John Mateer has to be the guy that he is expected to be locally and nationally. But if those two things happen, there's no reason Oklahoma can't play with anybody in the SEC. And if you can go win 10 games, which again isn't necessarily my expectation, but I think it's feasible. I think there's a very realistic world in which that can happen for Oklahoma. If they win 8, 9, and certainly 10 games, you're going to be able to do some stuff in the recruiting cycle late that would not have been possible if you just had a middling season.
Yeah, no, I look. I think at the end of the day, this season is make or break for Oklahoma. For it's huge, Parker. It really is. Like for so many reasons, but more so for just the future of the program. Like because I don't know that they. We've talked about this. There are some that believe that if Oklahoma was to go 7-5, that the staff would be retained still. That there wouldn't be a change in the
I don't
guard,
think there will be a change at 7 and 5.
which makes the negative recruiting easier, by the way. But on the flip side, after this year, Oklahoma gets the Texas schedule treatment, which can, which is, it's good and bad. Here's why I say that because the programs that Texas is playing or potentially playing, right? The Florida's getting better, right? Um, you get Georgia. Who else do they have? Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Mississippi State. I guess that would be the six, right? Am I missing somebody?
Yeah, you get, and there are no cupcakes in the
There are no
SEC, but
cupcakes.
you start to get some of the matchups that it's much easier to envision a world in which you not only win a game but run away with it. There are teams in the SEC where, if you show up and you play your game, you can run away with it on them. I'm thinking
Yeah.
most specifically right now about Mississippi State.
Yeah, and Oklahoma doesn't have one of those on their schedule right now.
No, but Mississippi State and Vanderbilt's on the come up. I think we saw that last year, but historically Vanderbilt has kind of been the doormat of the SEC, and it feels like there are always two teams that are bringing up the rear, right? Two teams that are just not any good. It's
Yeah.
set up for the next few years as if Mississippi State is going to be one of those teams. I'm not sure who the other one will be, but
And I feel bad for Levy, but at the same time, like he should not have taken that job. That was not like,
it's hard to win there. It's
yeah.
really hard to win there.
But he had Zach Selman. I mean, that's his boy, right? They've known each other for a long time, so that it made sense. It also made sense. Yeah, man. As far as just like, when do we think Davion Gross is gonna pop?
I
Like,
don't have any clue right
I
now.
don't
I
either. Like,
really
that's
don't.
such a weird recruitment.
Nobody has much of a handle on the timeline there for a decision.
Yeah, I don't. I'm
I think if you're Oklahoma, you want that one done sooner rather than later, right? Like
for
you don't
sure.
want that one dragging out because a player of his caliber, the more it drags out, the more money is going to hit the table, whether real or fake.
Hmm. Yeah, this one is at some point. Baylor's a player there, so I think that's kind of interesting with the Jordan Clay aspect. Like at one point, we are like, yeah, they get one of the two, and it's probably gonna be Davion Gross. Could Oklahoma beat them out from both? Like,
Well,
is that?
I still consider it unlikely that they
Yeah.
wind up with both.
Mm.
I concede that it feels like more of a possibility than it did a week ago. I'm still not buying it though.
Yeah. So you're kind of like I was with the Jaden O'Neal thing. Like, it's more of a possibility that he sticks, but so you're
I
not
think
quite there yet.
Oklahoma's getting gross right now. Things feel pretty solid there. With Clay, man, it kind of feels like a bit of a toss up right now.
Hmm.
Like more of a toss up than it has. I'd still lean Baylor, but let's see what kind of noise Emmett Jones and Oklahoma can make over the next week. See what kind of final pitch they can put in front of Jordan Clay.
Does Baylor like? Do you believe Baylor if they throw around a ridiculous amount of money for a player? Like, do you think they would actually pay? It's almost like the like. I'm going to make this analogy: Oklahoma State and Taj Overton. Like, the money was insane that they threw out there. Is that real? We're going to find out down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think it's similar? Like, do you feel like it's similar? Because I kind of feel like it's a similar kind of recruitment with Jordan Clay, just because you've got to win one of those battles, and you probably have a better chance with Clay than you do Gross at this point, right?
Hang on. What?
Talking about money,
You said you probably have a better chance with Clay than you do Gross.
talking about Baylor, not Oklahoma.
Okay. See that? I got lost somewhere in that discourse. I didn't realize you were approaching it from the Baylor side.
I was purging from the
Um,
Baylor side. Yes,
yes, yes. If
yeah.
you're Baylor, I think you definitely feel that you have a
No. OU has a better chance with Gross than Baylor. Yes, I
yes.
agree. Yeah,
If you're
no, I was.
Baylor, you definitely feel like you have a more realistic chance with Clay, a much more realistic chance with Clay than with Gross right now.
Yeah. Um. Anyways, all right. Well, we do appreciate everybody for showing up and hanging out with us on this lovely July 2nd, Wednesday, July 2nd. We're on three now. And if you want to go give us a try, it's $1 for the first week. $1 first week. Go to ouinsider.com. You sign up. $1 for the first week. Give us a try. Love to have you on there. Fun board. Lots of information. We've dropped so much information in the last 24, 48 hours. But that's like, I think if you're
That's
not
what you
on our
get.
board, yeah, if you're not on our board, you and you go over there and you think that's a lot, that is a normal day on OU Insider. You will have more days with multiple notes than not. And that's because that's what we're supposed to do for you guys. We're there to answer your questions. We're there to talk to you guys. We're there to post notes, keep you guys updated 24/7, 7 days a week. So just go ahead and give us a shout, give us a try. $1 for the first week. If you don't like it, you can cancel. It's real simple. Very simple. Click of the button on three. So love to have you all. Give us a try. Uh, OUinsider.com. Come join. But that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live, powered by Riverwind Casino. For Parker Thune, Spencer Forsythe on the board, my name's Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed night and a happy 4th of July.